than I was at your age, and you are. To me personally, you are, because at your age I was doing mad time. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So if anything you took out of my experience in my life, you know what I mean, I think that you benefited from my hardship. You know what I mean? And that's what life is about, reaching
Exactly.
out, teaching one. There's a saying that goes, each one reach one to teach one.
Each one reach one to teach one.
Yeah.
Some
And,
king.
yeah, no doubt. Strong saying.
Break it down.
So each one, if every individual reaches out to somebody, right,
Yeah.
and teaches them something,
Uh-huh.
and drops a gem on them, and let that gem, you know what I mean, that's plant that seed in a younger man's head, and eventually somebody will come along and water it. Experience will water it. You know what I mean? Trials and
Plant the
tribulations will
seed.
water it.
Plant the seed, it'll grow type thing.
Yeah, so but the seed was planted. You know what I mean? Yo, don't do that because I did that and this is what happened.
Yeah, you
That's a
always hear it
seed.
from somebody more or less.
That's a seed that I planted in your head.
Right.
So and then you could go out and do the same thing that I told you not to do, and you're learning. So through your learning process, you're watering that seed that was planted, and then you can learn quicker. You know what I mean? And then
Right.
in hindsight, you'd be like, "Damn, I should listen."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So moving forward, you're gonna have a keener ear to listening to older, you
Right.
know what I mean, advice, and not be like, fuck this old head, and I ain't
On some
listening to
shit.
my dad. He don't know what he's talking about. He made a mistake, so I ain't gonna make the same mistakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But at
And
the end of
me,
the day, you
I
going.
love constructive criticism.
But at the end of the day, you going to learn and
Yeah,
experience
either
on
way, you
your
gotta
own.
learn the hard way or the easy
Yeah.
way.
So you learn all like. At the end of the day, you go and learn off your own experience, but your own experience could be actions, consequence, or it could be like
Yeah, but what better way to learn
fruit
than
of
from the
mouth
mistakes of
type shit.
others?
Fruit of mouth, more or
A
less. Like,
wise man
mm,
will learn from the
words.
mistakes of others. Like I could have went to jail and learned how to let's say I didn't know how to do meth. I could have learned how to do a whole bunch of crimes and learn what not to do from all the mistakes that niggas, because every nigga that's in jail committed a mistake. So I could learn from all the mistakes and then think that I'm a uh fucking intelligent hoodlum, intelligent criminal,
Like
cause
I know better because I.
yeah, cause these niggas
See,
did it and they fucked up in this, so I ain't gonna do that. And they ain't no smart criminals. Everybody in jail is fucking in jail because they made a stupid mistake, bad decisions.
more or less.
The majority. But you know what I mean. What I did, I choose the pit. You know what I mean. I'm like, nah, I ain't gonna go down that route. But it all came. You know what I mean. When I made a lot of mistakes. So I ain't trying to brag like about what I mean above everybody else and nothing like that. But my job as your father is to put you on game, on real game, not
Oh,
fake game, not street game and all that, because that's all fake.
yeah, that's always. Yeah.
And like I learned the game, but I was because I was a product of the environment. I don't want to be nobody's product.
So with God, let's start off like
God,
you. All right, yeah. So when did you start your journey with God? Type deal,
my
like
journey with
yeah.
God.
When did you first started like picking up like okay, I'm learning this because I want to, and this is what I came to truth with more or
All
less.
right,
And, or you could say ways that it was implemented and you
this is
reflected
the
from it.
seeds of,
Yeah.
of God was planted in
What's your
me since
story?
I was a baby
Mm.
because of my mother.
Okay.
So she put that in my head since I was little. You know what I mean? Now having it in my head and in my heart was two different things that I had to learn through my journey. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Cause I already knew. You know what I mean? My mom used to go to church like 100 times a week. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And take us in there. And the majority of times I was either sleeping in church or
So you
playing
just
with
so
toys.
but like yeah, that's how it started more or less, right?
Mm-hmm.
So but like all right, when did you actually choose it? You feel me? You was like, oh nah, this the truth. I'm gonna give my life to God, more or less.
It happened gradually
Yeah.
through experience.
So
Like
when it
I had
start,
a
when it start,
all right. I think I had a circumstance that happened to me, right? A situation that happened to me that was like, for me being that young, that experience that I encountered was like super overwhelming,
mm,
and I don't know if it was a figment of my imagination. And now I believe it wasn't,
okay,
but back then I was like up in the on the fence with it. Like I was about I think like 10 or 11 years old, and my mom went to church. I didn't want to go. I still home behind by myself,
yeah,
and I felt like a weird presence in the house, and I got scared. I ran out the house, and I'm like, yo, it was like crazy, like a weird feeling.
Like an aura type shit.
No, it was like some spirit stuff.
Yeah.
So right, and then I got scared. I was
Like
in
the
the hallway
presence. The presence.
of my apartment building, and then I went back inside. And when I went back inside, I seen like a mad shining light in the corner of my mom's bedroom in the entrance, and it told me, "Jose, calm down. I'm here." Like clear, and I was young, and I'm like, "Yo," but I felt such a calm presence in me that it comforted me, and from that moment on, it's like God showed me that He's with me.
Yeah.
And then, I was a young kid, forgot about it, went on with living, making mistakes, doing bad decisions, and all that. And then another time when I reached out to him was when I was gonna die. I came back from Puerto Rico, and my appendix burst on the airplane. And
What the fuck? How that happen?
we was coming back from Puerto Rico on my appendix burst. And I had crazy stomach ache, and the appendix is a bag of poison.
Yeah,
toxin.
wasn't that? Don't you got like 15 minutes to do something or something like that?
Yeah, so before it bursts, because you could have symptoms of inflamed appendix, and you suffer the cramp, but mine burst, so it contaminated my bloodstream.
Yeah.
So they rushed me to the hospital. I didn't know what it was until I got to the hospital, where I told them where my pain was, and for some reason, all the toxic waste inside the appendix was still in my stomach. So they did emergency surgery, got it out,
Oh, so and clean. And
I was in the hospital for a while though. They had to clean my bloodstream.
That's crazy.
I remember being in the hospital and praying to God to save me, not let me die, because my blood was contaminated, and it could have led to heart failure and all that. But after that, I remember praying to God while I was in the hospital bed, because I lost so much weight. I was skinny as it is, and I was like 77 pounds in the bed. And
and how old were you?
When that happened, I was like 15 years old. So
15 years old and your appendix burst type that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So, but at that time,
how did y'all feel though?
Huh?
Like how that shit feel?
It felt like hot water in your stomach, like boiling hot water. But I remember praying to God, like with all my heart, God, don't let me die.
Right.
You know what I mean? And again, God came and manifested Himself in my life and clicked. Everything went good. After a couple of weeks in the hospital. So again, I forgot about it. I mean, as soon as I called, I was using God like an ATM.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Whenever I needed Him, I would call Him.
So you understood how it worked more or less.
So I knew that in my time of need, God will always be there, but I took Him for granted because of my lack of understanding. I didn't have a relationship with Him. I just knew about Him.
Yeah.
So that's like, you can call the fire department whenever there's a fire, right?
Yeah, you call the cop, they gonna come take shit.
Yeah. So I was waiting for fires to happen in my life before I called the fire department, which was God. You know what I mean? I'm talking. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Metaphorically. So every time, this is I found out long as I grew older that every time you shy away from God or don't have that relationship, things is gonna fall apart in your life because you don't have no balance. You don't have no structure. You don't have no purpose. You're just running around living life reckless.
It's all about foundation.
Yeah, and guidance. You know what I mean? Walking the right walk in order to benefit. You know what I mean? A good life. You know what I mean? So, but I was young. Growing up wild, had no guidance, no structure. My parents died. So me going through all that, God was always present though, and I felt His presence, but I didn't acknowledge it.
Yeah.
So reflecting back, I always knew that God was around. But I wasn't talking to Him. That was like living in the house with siblings or parents that you never communicate with.
Exactly.
And that happens in real life too. How many people live in a household that they don't even talk to their brothers and sisters or their parents? They just passing through
about anything.
Yeah,
you be around on
no communicating.
but when you looking at life in a
But then when
different
the rent or something's in
perspective,
need, you're gonna go to your family member and be like, "Yo, I need this," so they can help out and whatever in the household. But you never take the time to enjoy their presence. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly.
And that's deep, you know. And
Like
that's where
what you
family
do with the
comes in.
time, more or less, and how you mean you're able to make something out of
What out of God?
just everything in general, like time,
What do you mean?
like what you do with your time, and how you mean like how you were saying when people was like saying they crib, they don't engage in conversation with their people,
Yeah.
they don't engage in conversation with their family, they don't. You mean
But look at me and you, right? Even when we wasn't living together, nothing. You
yeah,
growing up, every time I had you around, I always try to like enjoy your presence. You know what I
right,
mean? And communicate. Have a relationship.
right,
Talk and do things. You know what I mean? And that's what counts. You know what I mean? And it could be little moments. That's what a kid is gonna remember. He ain't gonna remember what you buying him
right,
or that. He's gonna remember the moments that you took the time
yeah.
to enjoy him as an individual.
Like
You know
as a
what I mean?
young
To
boy, I
kick it with
remember a
him.
moment of like being like Spider Man type
Yeah,
shit and
yeah.
going around. Yeah,
Exactly. Or when we would play fighting or
right,
little things, you know what I mean, that are impactful. You know?
exactly.
So that's what I try to like when I talk to people nowadays, you know what I mean, through my experience in life, that's what I always try to promote. Like communication. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Communication is key with
For sure,
everything.
that's a
With
fact.
your job, with your boss, with your coworkers, with your family,
Because it
with your
opens the door to everything.
yeah, exactly. Networking. You know what I
More
mean?
better understanding and different
And
perspective.
people respect you with how you communicate.
All
And a lot
about
of
talk.
us don't know how to communicate. For a long time, I didn't know how to
Yeah,
communicate with
use your
nobody.
words is what gets you in life. Actions and words. Stamp.
Remember, what comes out your mouth is what's in your heart. And like the
The
Bible
power of the
says about
tongue.
the power of the tongue, the Bible talks about that. You know what I mean? But
Exactly.
a lot of times we say things that we might think and regret what comes out your mouth. You know
Exactly. Yeah.
the
And you
tongue is
gotta
the
face the
dirtiest
consequence
thing.
of that. Always.
You know, but anyway,
But so
so
like when did you start
following like
like you was
submitting
like,
to God.
oh, this is yeah, holding accountability and like, all right, full
Uh,
fledged, like this is what I know. This is what I'm steady reflecting about. Like, you mean?
well, it took many more years of in and out and giving my life to God and taking my will back.
Yeah.
That was a pattern, revolving door. Just like dudes go in and out of prison, like I did for so many years, I
Mm.
did that with God.
But yeah, you could do
So,
like the breakdown, like like more or less, like I could. You want me to show you as an example, like what I would say, like more or less,
yeah,
like on my breakdown, it would be like I know about God, like I heard about it. You mean as a kid, went to church, all that. You mean in
with
different ways with
grandma.
grandma,
Yeah.
what you mean, abuela, and with like Tuesday church and stuff like that. You mean me and Al used to go
Oh,
and
and
we
we
used to
used to
do a
put you
Tuesday
with
church
them
type
dudes.
thing.
Remember, they used to
Yeah,
come
I ain't
pick you
gonna lie,
up.
that was a good experience. That was like a different perspective because it was in like sitting in the church more or less. You feel me? It was like just talk. They would like talk about God. They would have songs and stuff, and they were like, you mean everybody singing it, whatever. It's like more like you
And
feel me?
experience like
Yeah, an
worshiping for real.
experience like a worship. Yeah, and but it was all like and never like you see that nothing but positivity,
Yeah.
nothing
So it had an
confusing.
impact.
Yeah, it was nothing confusing. It was more or less like this what keeps everything fulfilled, and you see how they just like happy and enjoying that and like
I
sharing
was
that
leery
type of
about
thing.
sending you with that dude
I
at
would be
first,
too. I ain't gonna lie.
because I was like, I don't know. But
Yeah,
then, I was like, if anything happens, and my street mentality was kicking in. And I'm like, yo, this dude will make him disappear. But
yeah, it's crazy. I see him recently, and he type remembers. Like, I
oh, we're
mean,
picking y'all
yeah,
up.
and I know like with the last time I seen him, I think I asked him about like, you mean Bible church or like how that would go, like just a teenager program or something.
Yeah.
But like, you mean he didn't. Hold on.
But that's a good conversation
I'm
that
on
too many.
stream. What's up?
Don't be in that motherfucker right quick. That's what I said. That's what I said.
Nigga want his
Hey
own little
man,
self
hey man,
promo. Hopefully they didn't give your number out saying that. What you want to do? Your little promo, Nick.
I just want to say I eat ass.
Alright.
Stupid.
Alright. You interrupted our session for that. He not
Yeah,
watching.
yeah,
He
but
not tuned in.
the devil comes in different forms.
But he be on some nut shit.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
back to like the topic, and that's crazy. You see how easily a person distraction, but that's gonna be a constant.
Yeah,
You know
for
what I
sure.
mean?
Always.
That's his job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he works overtime.
Yeah, and then it don't mean like, oh, your people.
No, it ain't. It ain't nothing on him.
It's just how it all
How
goes
exactly,
around. You mean?
exactly. So your sense of awareness when you walk in the spirit. That's what I learned. How to walk in the spirit.
And discernment.
When I started walking in the spirit for real, that's when my life changed.
So when that's what I'm saying. So when like you mean
many years after.
So like I was saying, so grandma, the Tuesday church, and like, but after that I'd be forgetting about like how you was saying, you mean
experiences.
Yeah, and then
forced
every
you to
now
call
and then,
God.
yo, good luck for tuning in. W Pops, Father's Day. You mean shout out Father's Day. But what's it called? So yeah, it start off like with more of that aspect outlook, and then I'll go to church randomly, and then I stopped like completely like thinking about it. And
Take your will back.
Yeah, took my will back more or less, and was on like that robot mode, you living life type of deal, and going with that,
and all the troubles that come with it.
Yeah, and then what's it called? Nate's boyfriend came around, Curtis. Me started talking to him about it. Boom.
But look, I don't mean to interrupt. Right? God always finds a way.
Right.
To a link.
For sure.
He's always around in different ways.
For sure.
And it's crazy. Like me, when I ended up in jail, right? So there was a guy right next to me in the bunk right next to me. And he was always reading the Bible, praying for me and everything, and like preaching to me. And sometimes I didn't want to hear it.
What? That's when you first went to jail?
Yeah, when I was facing. When I was facing. I went to jail at 19 when I was facing life.
Oh, so you was 19 and that was happening?
Yeah, and I was facing life this time, serious charges, and I was probably never gonna come home. So I was drawn to him because I knew he had the source.
Yeah.
And I seen that. I felt it in the way he carried himself.
Right.
The way he dedicated himself to the Bible, to praying. He ain't cared that there was a whole bunch of people around. He would get on his knees every night and pray. So I'm like, damn, I was feeling it.
You see true worship type.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, he's devoted. So I would talk to him, you know what I mean? He gave me energy. And it was the Holy Spirit, you know what I mean? Right. God always found a way to communicate to me that he was there for me, just waiting on me. So I remember when I was facing all that time and I got in a cell in court, I got on my knees and I was like, God, let your will be done. Trembling, scared to death, because my flesh was scared, but my spirit was like, I'm leaving in God's hand. My trust, my faith. You know what I mean? I did it.
More or less.
Yeah. And me, I went in there blind, and you know what I mean? I did, I still got a lot of time, but nothing compared to life in prison.
And you had to
accept it.
Yeah, you had a different perspective because you could have been. You would have accepted the other behalf, and you would have been like, "All right, I'm about to face this bid. Let me get my weight up. But in general, you get your weight up. But let me get my weight up so I could run this shit type deal. Like,
it would have probably been different if I would have been doing 50 Live. Probably would have been like dead in jail, really, because of the way that I was.
Perspective.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I would have probably given up on everything, not cared. You know, but by God allowing put a light at the end of my tunnel, even though it was pretty long because it was 10 years. Yeah. It was nothing compared to doing life. You know what I mean? So I got on my knee. I praised God. I felt the joy of Him answering my prayers. And then through the course of Him blessing me, I still took my will back.
Exactly. Mod, you can send me the link of my Twitch. Fact. Need that. Yo, Al, send me the link of my Twitch if you want here. But yeah, keep going.
So I still took my will back, you know what I mean? Right. After everything was good, I took it back and then ended up in the hole for 2 years for taking my will back, doing some dumb.
Took your will back in jail type.
In jail, yeah, I ain't care. I was like, whatever, I got a light at the end of my tunnel. As long as I don't catch a new bid in here, I'm doing whatever the hell I want to do. You know what I mean?
Take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I was going through what you call a crisis, like an identity crisis.
Mm.
I didn't know if I wanted to be a thug or I didn't know if I wanted to make something of myself. You know,
Right.
I had no guidance really. But through the course of me doing time, there was a lot of older guys that was trying to take me under the wing and drop gems in my head and tell me, yo, don't do this because you're gonna end up like this. Don't do this because you're gonna end up don't get in no gangs because you're gonna end up, you know, you gotta follow the rules of jail, then you're gonna have to follow the rules of gangs, you know, and you know, a lot of advice. And some I
Exactly.
took, some I didn't. You know, don't do drugs because if you do drugs, you're gonna be, you know, a user, a loser, and all this. And you know, I took some advice and some I didn't. A lot I didn't, and had to learn through, you know, like, trial and error.
Exactly.
But learn I did, and guess what? Every time I fell, I reached out to God. So every time I took my will back, I was
Right.
in a bad situation. So God's telling me every time you take your will back, you're gonna do whatever you want to do, and you're gonna fall.
Exactly.
You know. So I got it together. You know what I mean. I started worshiping God. I wasn't ashamed of it. I didn't care what anybody thought. You know what I mean. I was doing it from my heart. You know. And little by little, He was molding me.
Exactly.
You know.
Implemented the seeds and
And I made it through 10 years of prison. Came home. You know what I mean. Healthy and shape. You know what I mean. A clear understanding of life. You know. Of being a man, what a real man is. And you know the rest you know already know. And then again,
but it's a
even
breakdown for them.
huh?
It's a breakdown for them.
Yeah. So when I came home, you know what? I got back into school, went into college. I lost all my 20s. I came home when I was 30, but I still felt like if I was 21,
Yeah.
and I looked like if I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. You know what I mean? And when I came home, I got back into school. I started working, you know, met a chick, and you know, I wasn't at 100 with God either. You know what I mean? Because life hit me, you know, and the excitement of being back in society. So I came out here after I was in New York, moved out here, met your mom, had you know, and then it didn't work out with me and your mom's, and I went on my own again and lost focus on everything again, you know, and went back to the way I was as an adolescent. You know what I mean? But older.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And with all the stinking thinking that I picked up in jail.
Exactly.
You know? So I was still not balanced. I still didn't know my purpose. You know? I had a glimpse of it because God always planted them seeds in my head when I went to church at times. It was a lot of experiences that I had with God during the course
Good
of my
looking.
life that He always called me.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, through
Yeah.
different
Through
people, through
every
different
way
avenues,
type
He
of deal.
always kept calling me.
No matter where you was at, no matter
No
what
matter
you was
what I
doing.
was doing, where I was at, God was around.
Boom.
And
then,
that's God's grace.
yeah. And then furthermore, keep like when you getting out of it type of deal.
What?
Like you know, we're going through a brief breakdown of it. So like, all right, after that, when you came out there, you kept on
I
going.
took my will again back and had that big accident, you know what I mean? Another accident in the hospital for
Was
a long
that
time.
before or after you had me?
After you was born, like 2 years after you got born, I had that
Mm.
other accident.
So
You know what
that
I mean?
yeah.
So me and your mom wasn't together though.
Mm.
But we were still together, but on the verge of breaking up.
Right.
So anyway, she thought I was doing something with some chick while I was in the hospital in ICU. She almost ripped all the stuff off of me, thinking that I was with some chick, and I wasn't.
Damn.
But
So that look that's where it type started with me when the one shorty did whatever with me when I was 2.
What when
When
you
I
was
was
2?
2.
Yeah,
Where it
right. Oh,
started.
that's when that
Yeah.
girl.
Right after that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Because mine was already with somebody else. You mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So those are
that's how-
turning points,
Yeah, that's how
and those are
everything get done.
parts of your life that impact you and mold
Yeah.
you. You know what I mean? So if you're not able to overcome adversity, you know what I mean, or situations in life, if you don't develop the skills, then you stagnate and you stumble through life
Right.
because you're carrying
For sure. But keep
you carrying a lot of weight. You know what I mean, from the past,
Right.
scars that affect your present. So I learned how to give. Look, remember I lost my mother, my dad.
right.
I lost
And
a lot
then
of friends.
you gotta mention what ages was that at? Type
Oh, when I was mad young, I lost my dad when I was like 6. I lost my mom when I was a young teenager. Then I lost all my best friends through gun violence in New York, and I ended up in jail because of gun violence.
and soon y'all gonna see a whole thing implemented with that. I mean, a whole story breakdown in different
Oh
ways
yeah,
that
how things happen.
we're gonna get him posting. Yeah,
So after I did that bit, I came home, you know what I mean, tried to get it right and got it wrong because my purpose wasn't in alignment with God's will. You know what I mean? My purpose
yeah.
was my own free
You
will,
was
what
still
I
yeah,
wanted to do, what I thought was good for me.
still was going searching for. You mean
Still
the world?
rebellious,
Yep.
not even searching, just rebellious, just doing whatever I wanted to do, you know, living for the moment and allowing circumstances and situations dictate what I would do.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was still thinking like a young, underdeveloped adolescent. You know what I mean? I wasn't thinking as an adult and being responsible. I was semi-responsible. You know what I mean? I wanted
You
to.
wasn't holding everything that you knew
Yeah,
in
yeah, but I
account.
wasn't balanced. I was
Yeah.
definitely imbalanced.
So then it kept
So
going.
it kept progressing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I kept feeding the negative
Right.
instead of feeding the positive. So as everything goes, when you do negative, bad things happen. So I ended up in a crazy car accident. You know what I mean? I ended up almost losing my life again in the hospital. Then I went through that, broke up with your moms. Then through the course of that, I developed, now the devil snuck in another thing, the love for opiates.
Opioids. Yeah.
Yeah, because of it started off with Vicodins and Percocets because I was in a bad accident, so they prescribed them to me. Took it like it that. Once that was over, it was street drugs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And growing up, I hated fiends, even though I served
You just
fiends.
view them a different way.
Yeah,
You see,
yeah, I was
you
like,
see
never.
them, like,
Yeah, I looked
no.
down on fiends growing up because
But,
that was the
well, I
mentality
never-
I was raised
And a lot
by.
of people could relate. And I'll never smoke. I don't know why people smoke.
I ain't never gonna take a
man.
perk. You crazy?
Not a vape. Smoke cigarettes. Smoke
Yeah.
whatever. Weed. You mean?
Yeah, and you with the wrong girl, I mean, and she's doing coke, and you in the telly, and she's like, "Try this, come on, you gotta make the sex
Oh,
better."
we might not be able to say certain words.
Oh yeah, so anyway, so if you were in a telly with a female, and she's trying to introduce you to some substances, you know,
Yeah.
and
You could describe it in a different way.
yeah, yeah, and they're not good, and she's doing it. It's gonna make the sex better. More than likely, you're gonna try it. You know what I mean? She is gonna open another door.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so I just kept opening mad doors until I became.
Every different substance has a different door.
Yeah,
type
and but it all has the same effect.
Yeah, the same
the same
door
outcome.
type deal.
You know what I mean? You're gonna fall off. You're gonna be a slave to that substance, and you're gonna do things you thought you're never gonna do.
So,
You know what I mean?
in
Whether
the
it be
world-
rob, steal, you know, belittle yourself,
Right.
and do all kinds of things because that's gonna be your priority to get high.
Yeah, to briefly break down, since now is like the start of it. Like you get distracted. It was different ways of distraction as you a kid, as you grow older. Me and the influence and the surrounding and understanding and perspective.
And then when
all
you're
in the
older,
place.
nobody can tell you nothing. You're your own
Yeah.
man. Well, you think you're your
You
own
got
man.
your own God type deal. You
Yeah,
got your
exactly.
own judgment. You mean?
So anyway, I became an addict or whatnot, you know what I mean? Something that I never thought in my life I would be. I looked down on addicts growing up, you know what I mean? Because I used to sell a lot of drugs. So it was a big abyss in between me and the addict, you know what I mean? I'm the one that's serving, you're the one that's using. But then the tables turn, you know, and that's what I became.
Right.
But then I was one of them bad addicts because I was still like, what? You crazy?
Right.
Somebody want to sell me drugs, I'm gonna try to take it from you.
That's some shit.
You know, so even though not to brag or boast, but none of that because that was all corny.
Yeah.
But that was my behavior.
Perspective.
Yep. Yeah. So anyway, so I learned how to even try to manage that. I was like, I'm gonna start selling and doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm gonna be both worlds. You know what I mean? I could be the dealer
Good
and the
looking
user.
for the follow. FaceTime. Yeah. Appreciate you.
You know, the dealer and the user.
That's a fact.
But you know, even though I lost perspective, and you know what I lost? My sense of thought, because I was so reckless that I didn't care. But I already did 10 years. I'm like, for what I'm doing, I can never do all that time.
Right.
You know. So I kept going in and out of jail, but it was skid biz. You know what I mean? County time. It wasn't no state time. So that was nothing to me to
Yeah.
do a couple of months in jail. That's a recharge.
On some
You
shit.
know what I mean? I get my weight back up. I come out. Do it again.
Yeah.
You know.
I was
But I
stuck in that
kept
loop for
everything
a
I
little
kept
minute.
gaining in life. I kept losing.
Right.
You know. And I would gain relationships, lose them. I would gain property, materialistic things, lose them. You know what I mean? And kept gaining, losing, and kept losing more than I was gaining because I was losing something that you could never get back.
Exactly. Time
Time.
and all the
Yeah,
actions put in for that.
yeah,
to
yeah.
get
All
it.
the efforts, all the wasted
Yeah.
energy. You know what I mean?
All of that.
All the assets.
Exactly.
So until I lost so much that that saying goes, you hit rock bottom, you lost everything, you ain't got nothing, and guess who was there at the end of nothing?
Negative.
God.
Well,
God
yeah.
was
Well,
waiting,
God, yeah. I don't want to
waiting for me to
always.
realize that I ain't got nothing, and guess he was the only one there when I really, really lost everything, And then, like the saying goes, in order for you to commit yourself at 100, you gotta come naked like a baby being born and
Exactly.
submit your whole
Refresh all
will
the
to
time.
God. I already lost everything. So the only thing I had left was God. So
Exactly.
it became kind of easy to reach out to him.
Yeah.
But as I
Close that
committed
door
myself from
again.
my heart,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? From losing everything and from all my life experiences, I was like, look, he opened up my mind and my heart.
Mhm.
And that
Yeah.
time when I took this time, I was like, it's for real because he showed me the true love. The unconditional love. Something that I never really truly had. So that was my turning point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when that happened, letting everything go because I lost everything anyway. So I let everything go and then started asking God to put back the things that meant the most to me in life.
Mm.
Our relationship
Right.
that I thought that one time we lost, remember?
Yeah.
And my health, my finances, my mind, you know what I mean? My purpose. So God, little by little, started putting everything back in place. Not me.
Right.
God did. Yeah, you seen it.
Yeah.
And the change was for real. And to this day, I always put God first. I'm not perfect. You know what I mean? I still struggle with little things, but nothing in comparison to the things that I struggled in the past is I let go.
Exactly.
So, that was like a little mini brief breakdown, you know? But it's
And
something
so
that
after, but like say at that pivot point, right? Like as in recently, that was what? How long it took you after that? It was like a 20
the
year. So it
transformation.
was like a 10-year, then it was a reflection, and then a 20
All
year.
right, it was
But
a
in the
10
midst of
year
all of it,
of
it
10
was
years of prison, right? Came
yeah,
home. Then it was your whole life, basically,
yeah,
of me struggling through drug
right,
addiction. And then, like 5 years ago, everything changed, you know what I mean?
mm,
Because I ended up back in prison,
right,
not in jail, in prison. I had to do another bid.
right,
But during the course of that bid was when the transformation happened from the
uh-huh,
heart because I
right,
shut everything out, you know what I mean? And focus on myself and God,
yeah,
and God molded me and clear my mind of all, clear my body of addiction, clear my thoughts of all free will,
got
you know
fully
what I mean?
rehabilitated
Yeah,
type of
yeah,
thing.
he rehabilitated me in all
And then
aspects.
everything that was influenced you kind of took its own route.
Yeah, everything was I was letting go
Yeah.
of all the chains that was bounding me
Right.
to sin and
That's a
a
fact.
hard life. I was
Yeah.
breaking one God was breaking one chain after another, So little by little the transformation was not of me, of him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So and
Exactly.
then I started experiencing real joy, real happiness, real love. Like everything that I experience now is so real that I regret not doing this years ago.
Mm.
Like being true to him.
Yeah.
Like
And
putting
right
him
before,
first.
so it was like three times. So that was like the confirmation picture when you was 19, more or less, and then when you was what? When you had me 30 some,
Yeah, 33.
33, and then now at I mean
Yeah, at 53.
33, 28. So 10 years, 20 years.
Yeah, 20
Then
years because you're
boom.
21 now. But
And then it was like right before I had a son is when you came out.
yeah,
I mean, right after, or was it after?
right before you had Brielle, I came home.
Yeah, right before you came out, right as soon as I had my son.
Exactly. Not no lie. Like a couple of weeks right before.
Yeah. And then everything took its course, and then
Yeah, and you see how even when I
fully,
came out, how the struggles, but my patience and
yeah,
my trust
yeah,
and faith
too.
in God. That I was showing you, we was
Yeah,
FaceTime,
fact.
remember? And I'm like, look, I'm gonna let it go and let
Yeah.
God. You know, He's gonna
Like
provide
all
for
the
me.
jobs, man, application, man,
I
I
was
was
I
put
was
in just to try to
homeless.
get a
I
job.
came home homeless and broke,
Yep.
and trusting in God.
And went with a program, took the avenue to what was it?
Yeah,
Hustle,
yeah. The hustle, grind, and execute.
hustle, grind, execute type deal. Everything that you know, just keep moving forward. There's
Yep,
always
and
another
applying
way.
everything that I knew, even in the streets, but applying it to God first.
Right.
You
In
know what I
that
mean?
perspective.
In that
Man,
perspective, exactly.
the utmost best. I mean, and
Yeah,
that,
the hustle the right way, grind
yeah,
the right way,
it's
that it can never
inevitably.
get taken from me.
Then it's the three breakdown: inevitably positive, unconditionally loving, and like all knowing, all
Yeah.
accountability.
So look, you see the list that we put together,
Uh
right?
huh.
Everything aligned.
Right.
God
God,
first,
we
right?
got God. We got some visuals. God, family.
Then He gave me back my family.
It's going. You get it. Visuals. Hold on.
What's that?
Let's talk double word. So good.
What is it?
Knowledge.
Yeah, I
After
gained
family,
knowledge.
knowledge. What's that? Work. Work.
I started working.
What we got? We got money.
I started getting mad money.
Money. Women.
Yeah,
Oh, and
well,
then
yeah, I got it.
he got back with my mom at the 20 years. Then
Yeah,
then
and it was a decision out of free will. That it wasn't God's will.
yeah, I never thought I'd seen that in my lifetime. It was great to experience though. It's funny. Rap.
A passion.
Yeah. And life.
And
And
that's
say with
my
rap, it
life.
could have just been anything in general, as into what you took as in passion, like he's saying. Man,
Yeah,
with that,
yes,
he
something that you
took,
love to do because people can
yeah,
rap. Look at Josh. Josh used to rap with me, street rap,
right.
and
Now
now
he
he's
got
doing
Christian
something
gospel
Christian
rapping.
gospel rapper,
Yeah,
and he's doing it big for real.
right. Maybe on tours, then basically
Yep, rapping,
they
and he
do
got
church
skills.
tours.
He got mad skills.
Yep. And what's it called? So with that, it took
A lifetime.
a lifetime. I mean, but all of it you can break down and apply it to yourself.
No, and
always.
look at the beauty of it all, right? All the trials and tribulations that I went through, I don't regret not one of them because those are things that I could share with you,
Everything and more to the
so
world.
you could use my
Yeah.
mistakes as your
Apply
knowledge and
forward.
wisdom,
The
and not have to
knowledge,
go through it.
when that's where God plays, where you just take your knowledge and you understand, you already know the whole breakdown and apply it forward with everything that you know and know when to, how to. That's where we started this conversation, communication. That's key. Like we saying, communication is key.
Yeah, and communicate with the younger. There's people that look up to you, even though if you're young,
A
there's
lot
younger people that look up to you.
type of deal. You never know. You never know how much you can make a difference, more or less.
Yeah,
I mean, and
with
if,
little
if you go
ways, little
with,
things.
yeah, like there's some type of saying, like when you look at a graveyard, what do you see? It's just forgotten dreams, lost hopes, lost visions, like all of that in a sense. Everything in the world that we ever chased and dreamed of. It was like, and all of that is there because nobody took you mean, that faith to act on it, that to move you, more or less. Man,
You know what's crazy? That I just had a thought right about the influence people have on the younger generation, right?
right,
The older, and no matter what age you are, because you could have influence. You could be in a house, right, a trap house with a girl, and she got her little kids around, right, and she's little kids is watching you, in and out, hustling, drinking, smoking. So they being influenced by your actions,
yeah.
you know. So it's important for us to be aware. You know what I mean? Of how your actions influence everything around you. You know, and the people that are
Exactly.
around you, the
Cause
ones that don't know.
that's what plays parts in everything.
Yeah,
That's when you gotta take all the fruits and do something with it.
because you're accountable. You gotta hold accountability. You know what I mean? You can't be like, yeah, these kids is bad. Nah, something they saw made them like that. Just like whatever mistakes you making, you know what I mean? It ain't because you want to be bad, because you think you bad. Ain't nobody want to be bad, but something influenced you to think like that. and to
Yeah,
do all the negative stuff you do. So just like you influence to do bad stuff, influence yourself to do good stuff.
for
You know what I
sure.
mean? To be a
How can
real
you
man.
change it? You mean, but
Yeah.
like on that note, so now it was how long has it been since you got out?
A year and like 3 months.
A year and 3 months, and in a year and 3 months, you
Everything
already
that I've
changed
accomplished.
everything around, literally everything to the T. At this point, yeah,
Yeah.
got yourself a car. You ain't driving how many years?
Well, legally, I ain't
Yeah,
driving
well, in
like 20
general, like
years.
yeah, 20 years, and then what's it called? A good job. Been on a good job since you got
Yeah.
out. For me, when you had your little trials and tribulations with getting a job and having your way
With
to it.
my record,
Yeah,
you know what I
and your
mean?
record, everything seemed like there was no door. Or I gotta choose this route no matter what, but still stuck to it.
And I went and got
And
some schooling.
and
in a
how
year.
what job did you land to? You landed a good paying job that was like you mean
Yeah.
like dang they got me in this job. I'm a work grind
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
mean
And worked
hard work.
hard and got in there. Yeah.
Hard work still.
Yeah. It's
Mm,
hard work, but it's worth it. You know what I mean? It pays.
yep. And then still to
My
this day
own
doing
spot.
physical work to the utmost. You mean?
Yeah, yeah, damn right, yeah.
And
But
then
and then got certified,
and then
through
going in schooling, went back to school, got a new
in
certification
a
that
year.
in a year that applies to now. And all this process of you
In one
mean
year,
or
yeah.
avenue.
And it ain't because of me, it's because of God. Because I surrendered myself to God. So God
Yep.
opened all the doors that needed to be open. Got my own spot, my own car, my own job. And what people try to do in a lifetime, I did it in 1 year because of God, not because of me, because I ain't do nothing but just follow. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And it wasn't easy, but he made it easy. It was a piece of cake.
Yeah, more or less when you had that discernment and faith and you
And I told you,
understand.
you seen it with your
Yeah,
own eyes. You know what I
for
mean?
sure.
And I'm happy that he gave me the opportunity to show you
Yeah,
that.
got the
You know what I
witness.
mean? Because it builds your faith
And
and
that
your
was going to the
trust.
story with the let's stop. I might as well grab the book so you know
Oh yeah, yeah.
going with it.
But I'm telling you, people's gonna make a lot of mistakes, but it's out of choice. You got the free will. But God is good. And not just saying that because it's, a cliche to say God is good all the time. Nah, because
Yeah.
he really is.
Yeah, went to school and got a whole certification in that field of recovery and mentorship and applying everything that you know to the
Yeah, now
purpose.
soon I'm gonna be working just doing what I was doing for free.
More or less, yeah.
Helping people,
That's something
educating
that's
people.
like the utmost best in that avenue where you could go with God and
Yeah, and I got
apply
the
that
best
forward.
credentials. I lived
Yep.
it.
Experience. And
Yeah.
that goes with so I was going to mention a story that got from this book. Shout out this John. Pastor Michael Todd, Transformation Church with Crazy Faith. That's the
That's what I
the
developed.
chapter.
That's what I developed. You know that, right?
Crazy
That's
faith.
my base. That's my foundation, my crazy faith. And
Yeah.
like I said, I'm not perfect. I still got things that I carry, you know what I mean, that I want to let go of, and it might seem
Exactly.
small in comparison to the bigger things I used to carry, but they still bother me, you know what I mean? Because I would never be perfect, but I strive to be,
More or less.
Every day I try to be a better person than I was yesterday.
Uh-huh.
And then I try to always, you my seed. So I try to nurture you, cultivate you, prune you,
Apply the fruits,
and
more
guide
or
you,
less.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're the fruit. Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
And then
So-
you got a seed that
Yup.
you got to raise.
Now I had to understand that and apply forward with everything too.
And how
My
that
own
impacted
experience.
you and changed you.
With everything.
Yeah.
So with like that comes with the story that I was gonna say out of that book, out of that chapter was there was I'm not real too rememberable of the names of the story that was in the Bible, but it was the story about the dude that was sitting there on a mat. He was paralyzed his whole life, and his friends had the faith that if they brought him to Jesus, that he would be healed.
And a crowd was around the
And
house.
the crowd
with
was
Jesus, and they
everything.
couldn't get in.
Yep, and the friends brought him to. Feel me?
They climbed to
Go
the
ahead.
roof and
If
let
you
him
know,
down.
yeah, if you gotta break down, say that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it did. Like,
So-
his faith, right? He was like, "Yo, just bring me to him. Just bring me to Jesus. He'll heal me."
Right.
And the friends was like, "All right, let's do it." they had faith. They're like, all right, we're gonna do this. But then when they got to the house, it was mad people there. They couldn't get in. They're like, how we gonna get in so you can see Jesus?
Mm,
They climbed to the roof and dropped them from the roof into where Jesus was inside the
crazy.
house. And Jesus healed them because he's like, your faith brought you here.
Yeah.
You know what I
But
mean?
there was like more or less it was like your friend's faith because he ain't exactly have the faith. He had to like
Trusting his friends.
yeah, more or less he had to trade faith in order to act on his active faith. You mean what everything that he already know, but he didn't believe more or less.
Yeah, he
So
had to experience that in order to
yeah,
build his faith.
yeah, that so that built his faith like with all of that. I mean, and then furthermore, what Jesus was saying, or just everything of what I took out of it was like he was like, everything like go back to the people that took care of you, all of that, even if like no matter what it was like going through, just to show your trials and tribulations and how God manifested in your life, and you mean God's work in your life and how the blessing that He's been to you, and they see that the blessing you are to everything else. You feel me, more or
Yeah,
less,
yeah,
and
yeah.
how it could apply forward, and you
That's
mean
what's
change
important right
everything
there. Be a blessing
because
to people.
they see the true scheme of it all because they was there from the struggle and everything, and then came out and they see the outcome and change.
And that's what helps people believe had help. Like I pray that
Right,
like my actions and whatever I went through and my change and transformation that God made in my life helps another person
for sure.
gain faith and trust and be like, wow, if I trust and gain, even if it's a little bit, the Bible says if you got the faith of a mustard seed, which is the
Yep,
smallest seed
could
on
move a
earth,
mountain.
you can move a mountain, and that's true because all you gotta do is call out from your heart. That's it.
Exactly.
And gotta open them doors. You know, if you
Yep.
if your faith is weak, ask God for faith.
And all the stories in the Bible for real is just stories of different trials and tribulations that you could understand and apply it to whatever you go through in life
You know
through
what
your
they say? What
experiences.
the Bible stands for? Bible. Basic
It's
instructions
in
before leaving
yeah,
Earth.
before leaving Earth. Basic instructions before leaving Earth.
The
And it's
Bible.
like a guide to life, more or less, in
It
the
is.
most inevitable positive way. Like I was saying, completely understanding, accountability, and unconditional love.
You know what's
That's what
crazy?
most made sense, most truth, and not complex about it. Everything the story was, the whole Trinity, all the more stories, it just makes everything go full circle and applies to it all.
You know
Man,
what brings me like joy and pride though,
hmm,
like and like kind of like a little bit of regret and like not nostalgia regret,
hmm,
right? Like
yeah,
thinking back that I wish I had my dad. You know what I mean?
right.
Like you know what I mean?
I
Like
feel you.
what we go through.
Yeah,
Like I wonder if he would have planted them seeds that I try to plant in you at
right,
your age, the person that I would have been or became. Not that I'm living with regrets, you know what I
right.
mean? But you know, you sometimes think, what if?
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, but you know,
Always.
I don't regret on whatever I had to go through as long as my experiences and my trials and tribulations are beneficial to you, to
Right.
make you a better person, to make you, you know, at your age, you know, or all that you know at your age is crazy to me to think that I wish I knew what you know.
And got to experience that shit
Because I
and have the
already know
freedom more or
that
less to
as
move
years go
around.
by, you're gonna learn more. You're gonna be greater than me.
Just how
You
to
know,
apply it type of deal. Yeah. I feel you.
I feel
Always.
yeah that you're gonna
It's
be
that everything come full circle.
So that's my mission on earth anyway. Every father's mission is to have his son.
Scully said, "Happy Father's Day, both y'all. Appreciate you, bro.
No doubt,
Good
no
luck for
doubt,
tuning in."
no doubt. What's up? But you know,
Yeah,
that's what every father wants for his
right.
son. You know what I mean? Those that are in
Yeah,
their son's
but
life.
everybody,
Even the ones that aren't in
yeah,
their son's life, you know, because they
exactly
live
for
with
sure.
regrets, you know what I mean? They
But
they
that,
they feel the pain of not being there, you
right.
know. And I pray for them guys, you know what I
But
mean?
that's
Because it
why,
hurts.
yeah, I always wanted that for everybody as well. I wanted that for myself at times too. When we, you mean, get to communicate and explain
Yeah,
for
yeah.
everything,
So many
and
times
then
that you was left without having me there to talk to, you know.
but in general, all of it, I try to just apply in the most best way of my experience and what I could take out of it. Because it's like you can't really, you make a situation worse, that's on you type of deal. So if you take whatever you could, even if there ain't no good, you could. All
You could
right,
be the good in that
I'm gonna
bad
learn out this
situation.
joint. So if you can make that happen, then
No,
it's
that's
like
what's
man,
important that you be the good in
yeah,
the bad situation.
for sure. And then where we're at now, apply it forward.
Yeah, no doubt, and
With
it's a
all of it.
beautiful thing. The experience is like priceless.
Yeah, but then we were seeing like how other fathers and stuff like that, or just people in general, they not like go back to the start. What we were saying, not communicating with the family, not communicating with the people that care, or see that was with the God story. Now it's like the family. What we got next, family topic.
Yeah, now
Boom.
family was important about
Yeah, so
that.
now it's not being applied to like the people around you, what you could truly make a difference with. You mean because they understand everything beforehand and what got you to where you at now, and
Yeah,
everything.
even if they don't though, some
Yeah,
people,
nah, yeah.
yeah, they
Even if they
don't.
can't communicate, like
Your
you
job is
mean,
to forgive. Be
yeah,
quick to forgive.
mm-hmm,
Like your dad's not there, right?
type deal,
Be quick to forgive. You know what I mean? For whatever
or never
reason,
been there, no nothing. You
yeah,
mean,
forget.
or
You know what I
or
mean?
he was just the worst. He was there in the worst, and you got
Yeah,
the
yeah,
worst.
yeah. He was a abusive dad. You know what I mean? That happens.
And you
But
trying to get
remember,
out of that.
everything happens for a reason, and he's abusive because of something. You know what I mean? Trauma that people carry as from childhood to adulthood creates trauma like that.
And that
That
could be abusive to himself and everything
yeah,
else.
and
Like you
everything
mean,
around him, a lot of hurt, pain, and he don't know how to deal with it. But that don't justify it. You know what I mean? But there's a reason behind it.
exactly. Every
But
when you understand and hold that accountable that everybody's human, we all living this life and experiencing it once. And you mean you start to carry in that aspect, you way more able to forgive and able to have a caring heart and
yeah,
understanding it's not to get taken advantage of yourself, but you could understand and
why?
see different aspects of life and how avenues and people making their decisions and why and how to get to them and communicate what you could do more or less.
Yeah, because you could have
Man,
harbored man hatred towards me because of my drug addiction. You know what I
right.
mean? My dad's and even though I was trying to always be there for you or give you little things here and
Yeah, I
there,
mean, in the stages, like when I didn't know, like more or less, like what it was, I was like, yeah, like why ain't around more or less, or like I ain't think much of it, or it just affect. It was that
but the
void type
effect
of
was
deal.
there.
Yeah, the void. But what's it called? I always try to like understand more when I could type of deal,
And then
and
when
then
different seeds was planted in your head
yeah.
of me.
So I got to be around more or less what was planted was, say your people is just telling bullshit, whatever, you mean? And then you getting your own experience from it, you mean? When I got my own experience being around you and stuff like that, and then taking the good and bad out of it, for me?
That's right.
And getting the season, oh, now I understand and I see the cycles and now I know how to communicate about it in my perspective. And if it does something, it does something. If it don't, then it does something within me and how I could apply that forward with myself
No
and the
doubt.
world
That's
type of
what
deal.
impressed me with when you was young and you opened up to me. That
Yeah,
impacted me more than
yeah,
anything.
that was more or less the door where you was talking about when what's it called? That we kind of like you mean not talk no more because I gave the breakdown of the cycle of what I seen you go through and what I like just like so that you understood more or less. I see it and I understand and I could like reflect about it type of deal.
Yeah.
And like if it does something like how I was saying, if it does something, it does something. If it don't, it don't. And then I was like, I can't exactly be a part of it in a sense of where I put myself on the line, but the love is unconditional and the understanding is there, and I'll be here how I can type of deal.
Exactly. But that's why, because resentment only hurts the person that carries it.
Right.
When
And
you
yeah,
resent somebody,
on the note that it was on the negative notion that I had felt, it was like, oh, like everybody could relate to their negative notion, their dark passenger avoid type of deal, and a reason to justify any negative actions that you're making, any simple or wrongful things that you do, and to justify that within your mind as well. Mean and just be on the aspect where you shutting out God, you're back on your will type of deal.
yeah, yeah, you are, yeah, exactly. But like that's the biggest thing that we have to forgive,
Yep. Because
because in
forgiving moves the
reality,
door for you.
everybody's human and nobody's perfect. You know what I mean? For you to be judgmental on somebody treated you this way, or somebody did this to you,
Right.
everybody has a reason behind doing whatever they do. You know what I mean? But if you want to carry that resentment with you, it's only going to hurt you. You know what I mean? Because you're going to carry that
Yeah.
negative feeling. So I learned to forgive. I mean, I forgave the worst. I mean, the worst females in my life, the worst so-called friends in my life. I forgave the people, you know what I mean, that did me the baddest,
The
the
worst
worst.
jobs, the worst.
Yeah,
You
the
mean?
worst
Yeah.
everything. I don't hold nothing, so I'm at peace. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, you forgiven. You got that. You know what I mean? Take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
And not saying that I'm gonna be a fool and fall
yeah.
for it.
Key thing. Don't forget. You can forgive, but don't forget. Apply
Yeah,
that.
don't forget.
Apply
Yeah.
that.
and don't forget, in a sense, to make it you a better person, not so you
Yeah.
could not forget and remember it and throw it in their face. You know
Nah,
what I mean?
that's just something to be accountable of and how you could use that in the utmost positive way.
Yeah.
Like, yo, I stand on this, I see this, I peep this, and you can
Yeah,
move how you want to move.
and set boundaries. I would not be in a relationship that's toxic. I
And
would not allow
yeah,
my friends to bring me down or bring negativity around me or my kids.
yeah,
Set
and at the
boundaries.
end of the day, we know what to reflect it about. We always go with our own reflection more or less, but we know to apply it to God's perspective in that reflection, because our reflection is still, you mean, iffy. It's not what it's
It's
supposed to
not
be. You
sharp. It's
mean,
not
so you
perfect.
always go and reflect and be like, you mean your own judgment gonna come into play, but you got to apply your own judgment to God's judgment. You mean,
Exactly.
and that's where you constantly reflect and sharpen
You
your
know
own
what I
self.
do, and I really, really do this.
Hmm.
Whenever I'm in a situation that feels overwhelming or hard or difficult that I think I can't get out of, and be like, or
Mm.
angry,
Yeah.
I'm like, what would Jesus do in this moment?
Yep.
I literally do that because it gives me the best solution for the situation.
Exactly.
Always. I can't lose with that train of thought. And it took a lot for me not to do what I wanted to do or react the way I wanted to react. And it took all the burdens of that decision making because what would Jesus do? Bam. So that's 100%
Yeah,
positive.
when just in life in general, when you're going through the midst of the battles, break down as simple as possible. What would Jesus do? And that's the best thing you could do. Like
Follow that.
what's the simplest best thing I could do with the whatever's going on right now, and I have to do something about it. I
An
mean,
argument, a
yep.
fight, a
How can I
disagreement,
boom?
a
How can I handle
situation.
this the best? Boom. Like I
And
mean,
you
not
you
even
come out of it a champ.
you got all odds against you. All right, just take it one by one. Boom, boom, boom.
And
Type
whatever
deal.
you can't handle, leave it in God's hands and trust and
Reflect
faith.
about it. Yeah. Reflect, repent, type deal.
But you know that it takes a lot, man, to learn that. You know what I mean?
Understand it all and
But
apply it.
just like you learn all the negativity, you can learn all the positive.
Yeah, you could definitely learn the positive and change your aspect, avenue within yourself, and see how that opens the door to everything else and the people around you.
And don't let the devil lie to you. You gotta keep lying.
It's gonna be every time you go through a battle, it's like really them seeds being planted. When you're in the midst of the battle, that's the time to rejoice for real. And you always in the midst of the battle in life. I mean, when it's going good, you should look around and be like, oh,
Count your blessings.
I might be doing something wrong. I mean, make sure you steady reflect, be on that note, but definitely appreciate all the good. I mean, you
Yeah,
gotta learn.
yeah,
I
when you
mean,
go and when things is horrible, you always find something that's good because you could be like, let's say for instance, my car gets wrecked, right? I still got feet. Thank God for feet that
yo,
I can walk because there's people in wheelchairs. You
it's a
understand what I'm
fact,
saying? Always be optimistic about everything.
right? They
Me,
say
I don't
like,
have no bad days no more
yo,
because God truly has blessed me with the train of thought that I'm optimistic. I see the good in everything, in all situations. When the difficult times, like your mom
yeah,
and her, way of being and her perspective, and how I maneuver through that, and always try to put my positive insight in it.
right,
You know, but then
yeah.
it always prevailed though, always.
It's a fact. And then say with me, I'm constantly around it. So it's like being constantly around the negative source. How do I be positive if my
Yeah,
surrounding is constantly negative? Well, I need to
you
isolate a
had
lot.
no, but then God's
But nah,
preparing you for something,
yeah.
something serious
Just
though.
in general, you always being prepared for a bigger battle. If
Because
you
if you
apply that
constantly around
forward,
something negative, you can probably be in the midst of wolves. Everybody a wolf, and you know what I mean. You're the only sheep that got to outshine the wolves.
yeah. And at the end of the day, you're gonna go through what you go through. No matter what, that shit ain't gonna stop. Life ain't gonna stop. It's how you go through it. For real. What you gonna do about it?
Yeah,
Like I was saying, if everything negative and like how we kept on saying, be the positive, well, you're gonna see how much that changes everything. Or be the negative and see how much that changes everything.
yeah. The
Man,
negative is always gonna lose. You're gonna
you
get
going
more
it's gonna
negative.
be worse and worse and worse. But at the end of the day, it's up to you what you want to make it. You want to make it
Exactly. It's
better for
free choice,
yourself
free will,
or worse.
and we're the only living things in existence that have the choice of free will.
Yep. Say like before the stream started, camera not working, microphone not working. Took me like 30 minutes to do it. I'm like, I'm wasting time forgetting subjects. I'm forgetting everything. I'm like, I don't even try to do it on the phone. And the camera angle's not good, everything not good. Oh, keep trying, keep trying. Boom, made it happen, figured out something. Made some
Like,
wires together, got
and
the
you know
camera
what's
back
the
going.
biggest blessing that I'm with my son on Father's Day, man. That's like
Yep.
super blessing.
Yeah, and it's take my like first official Father's Day. Well, nah, it's the second Father's
Yeah,
Day.
yeah, yeah.
But you mean full 1 year
But full
round.
circle, you know,
Yeah,
moving forward.
definitely came full circle.
Yeah,
and everything.
moving forward, yo.
Utmost change to life when you keep carrying that
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah, blessings, like, and they keep manifesting themselves. You know, we took the good with the bad, but made every situation a learning experience and a
A
blessing.
positive one.
You know, even when you had that accident, man, it could have been so much
Like
worse.
recently, yep.
And then thank God for that accident.
Yep. At the same time,
That
even
you're
though
alive.
what in all aspects it seemed like what you're fucked and the future's fucked. Nope. You can make a positive out
It's
of
a
it.
new beginning.
You could change it. Yep. You renew.
New beginnings. Every time you wake up, new beginning. You got the opportunity. Every time you wake up, thank God for another day to try.
Yep. You just need to steady humble yourself. Humble yourself and try look.
Yep,
Look for
and
God
go.
in everything. Man. And how you could look for it in yourself.
It takes one little
what you
step
know.
at a time, yo.
Apply all that forward. On that note. And then
No,
it's Father's Day. Who's everybody pops? God type the be thankful.
Yeah,
Type
and
It's Sunday.
the most strongest and most powerfulest father everybody got, and that's God.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Reflect on it.
Yep.
How you could apply that. How could you move forward with today?
So in reality, it's God's day, every day.
Yep. So that's with knowledge. That's another subject. Man,
Yo, I gotta
knowledge.
go, puppy.
But all right.
Yeah.
I know. I love you. That's a good sense.
No
You gotta
doubt.
keep up.
I love
I
you,
appreciate
puppy.
everything to the utmost unconditionally.
Yeah, I love you, puppy.
I love you, pops. Be safe, drive safe.
Yeah, no doubt. Give me a phone when I get home.
Make sure you don't forget nothing.
No.
That's a trick.
That's all right. I'll be back next week.
Stay aware.
God willing.
Safe.
Gotta keep my car going.
Oh, man, of course. Be careful with your car when you go on them. When you go out, when you
Joe, coughing up blood.
when you get out there, you mean when you great John. W pops in the chat. Appreciate you. W pops in the chat.
Peace out,
W
everybody.
Pops.
Much love. God first.
Yes, sir.
Keep that
I
going,
love you,
puppy.
pops. Call me if any.
Alright.
Yeah, got the old head in the stream for the first time. We're gonna start implementing different joints. I mean, different segments. I need to, apply that joint.